ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's meeting, and might I take this opportunity early on to wish everyone, all of you, a happy new year, and let's hope things go for all of us for the new year as we expect them to. Could I first of all welcome Grant and Javed from our external auditors who have come along to present their reports today. Part one is the evacuation procedure. Fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and do not use the lifts. Once out of the building, please gather outside the Yorkshire Bank on the opposite side of the road. Exit by the door by which you entered the room or by the fire exits, which are clearly indicated by the standard green fire exit signs. If you do need any assistance in evacuating the building, please make yourself known to a member of staff, and please make sure all your mobile phones are turned off or set to silence. And as you're aware, that probably all of this meeting will be recorded for future broadcasts. Thank you. Item 2 is apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Apologies from Councillor Lydia Hocking.
Thank you. Minutes to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, which you have on page 4. We agree they are a court record of the meeting.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 4, declarations of interest, which are attached along with your agenda. Does anyone have any other declarations of interest other than is already printed in the papers? Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, public consultation. I have been informed that on both agenda item 6 and agenda item 7, Councillor Condacore and Mrs M Condacore have asked to speak on both of those reports. So if we could move then first of all to agenda item 6, which is the audit progress report and sector update.
Yes, thank you, Chair. What you've got in front of you today is a progress report. We're into the beginning of our planning cycle for this year's audit, and part of that we're having ongoing discussions both with Craig, the finance team, and we have meetings programmed in with the MDs later in early February to pick that up. So what you have here in respect of progress report is as at December, is recognising work we were on last year's audit, and then we've issued the opinion for 18-19 at the end of July, and we are starting our planning for 19-20. As part of that, we will be again looking at the council's control environment, financial system, and updating our informational financial systems. We'll review internal audit work on the core financial systems and pick up any early work on emerging issues and accounting issues. I think for this audit committee, the key one this year will be around IFRS 16, which, whilst the standard doesn't come into play fully till 2021, you'll move into some sort of disclosure in 1920 accounts around the impact of that. So it's a little bit chicken and egg, but that's one of the issues that you'll have to address. We were just having a conversation with Craig outside in terms of if that's where you're a lessee rather than a lessor, so it's where you're renting something. And if it is, then you would likely have to bring it on balance sheet. So there might be some changes for 2021, but you have to sort of have a view on estimating that. So we'll be ongoing discussions around that. And then I think we're also expecting that the issues around the pensions fund and McLeod and GMP, whilst there'll still be live issues per se this year, we're expecting the actuaries as part of their work to incorporate assumptions within that. So we will bring up further up to date. We will bring the full plan back to the next audit committee. Also, I suppose in a sense, our line is around value for money work. I say we're still in our planning discussions around the VFM risks. We haven't reached any firm conclusion yet. This is the last year under the current arrangements of the Code of Audit Practice. There will be a new code, as we do, coming into place from April, once it's approved parliamentary approval, and that will mean that 2021 you will likely see a change in relation to the approach to value for money. I don't have details yet, but it'll be more of a narrative report, and rather than actually being part of our opinion. So I think in the past where you've seen our audit opinion, you will see a financial statements opinion and a VFM conclusion. We won't directly relate to VFM conclusion, but you'll get more of a narrative report back in September of the autumn. Progress, and actually where we will read the audit letter, I think we'll rename it annual report just to confuse things. In terms of audit deliverables, as I say, for 1920, we've already issued the fee letter. The council audit plan will come to the next audit committee, and alongside that we're doing the interim audit findings. One thing to bring to your attention is probably, which will come up more in the plan, is around audit fees, and a lot of that is around the overall line to the sector, and the FRC, who is our regulator now, requiring more across all audit firms, and expecting them to undertake, I suppose, greater scepticism and challenge of all of their clients' work, not just in the public and private sectors. And as it's highlighted here, there are areas where we've highlighted areas of financial reporting, especially around where you have large estimates of area and judgments around which domain for yourself, PPE and pension liability, where additional work is likely to be required for this year and in ongoing years. There was an additional fee proposed for last year. We're bringing it up front this year to explain what that extra work will be, and that will come out more in our plans for the audit plan that you'll receive then. But across the sector, I think you will be seeing an increase in audit fees. And I think I understand that PSAA has written out to all of its clients just before Christmas. We'll do a follow-up letter to that one, to the council in due course. So until 1920, as I say, a lot of our work hasn't started yet. We're due on site in the next month or so to do interim work, and as part of that, will feed into the plan, and then we'll report back to you accordingly. In terms of work that has been completed, we have completed the audit of the 18-19 housing benefits claim, and we'll report on that in due course. And we're also undertaking work now on the housing receipts claim, which is due for completion by the 7th of February. So that's what I want to say about the audit. In respect of the outstanding objection in relation to, which relates to car parking, I have gone through our internal review process. I was hoping to release it today. I've not had formal clearance of that yet, but it will either go out, hopefully it will go out tomorrow to the objector and to the council, who will then have opportunity to comment upon the findings of that. And therefore, and then I will take those into consideration, and then hopefully plan to finalise that. And my proposal then would be to come back again to the March meeting, bringing together all of the work that we have done on no objections over those years to the audit committee, with any recommendations that might come from them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So that was the audit. I don't know, I wasn't proposing necessarily to go through the sector update page. I mean, what we've done here is highlight areas around what's happening in the sector. I wasn't actually going to take you through that page by page, but I'm happy. I've explained the code changes, but I'm sort of happy to take questions on any issues that have come up.
And before we move to any questions, I have two speakers. Councillor Conical, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Happy New Year. It's quite good you brought up the objections, because they have been rumbling on for about 3 years now, possibly. Yeah. And we shouldn't really get in the position of having these objections. But if we do have them, we need to get them sorted quickly, because we need to learn lessons. And the whole point, and it's come through in your paper about what's happening in the future, is value for money. The whole point is that we need to think and take decisions wisely. And in this report, it does actually say about informed decisions. And the council can quite legally take foolish decisions as long as it's informed about all the options. seems to be what the rules are. And we do need to learn from these objections. And looking forward, there will be things in the future that the council will do, particularly over the £1 million plus on the new leisure centre feasibility studies, which may cause rise to yet more objections if it's not based upon sound evidence. So I just caution on that issue, and it will be useful to have some guidance as to what these value for money assessments will be in future, because they are an important check that the council not only adds up its accounts properly, but is wise in making decisions. So that's the main things I wanted to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair, I don't know if you want me to respond to that. In terms of the objection, yeah, as I say, it's not an issue from the council side. It's taken me time to complete that, so it's not a council issue per se. I do totally agree that we will look to do things a lot quicker in future. I take that on board, and I think in the report, hopefully when we summarise it together, in terms of the recommendations coming out of that, yes, informed decision making is the appropriate thing for all councils. I would, I agree with that comment. And I think in terms of that, I think where the sector is also looking in terms of, I suppose, decision making, CITFA is producing a lot of guidance around commercialisations and issues like that that is available both to this council and other councils. And I think it does highlight the need for, be fully understanding all the risks that you're entering into. It's not necessary for us to comment upon policy. That's what members around this table are for. That's what the electorate has elected you for, to make those decision making. But yes, it's making the best decision with the information you have in front of you at the time. It is, I suppose, from an audit perspective, we have to be careful about applying hindsight, but was it a reasonable decision based upon the evidence that people had in front of them at the time? That's where the auditor judgment comes in. And have, I suppose, in a way, have councils made the appropriate efforts and to make sure that they have the relevant information that they you could reasonably expected to have gained at the time before making that decision. And that's where we sort of, in summary, would look at all.
Thank you very much for the explanation.
I don't think there's anything I need to add, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any member wish to comment on the auditor's report?
Thank you, Chair. You're publishing a couple of questions.
Yeah.
A couple of things on here really intrigued me when I first looked at it when it came through. The future of local audit. There's a couple of options there, and you talk about stuff that could be, I don't know, like a return to district auditors or something. Are we going back to the future there? And the second thing is the Sustainable Growth Index report. Oh, that sounds actually quite useful, quite an exciting tool for us. Is it just Grant Thornton data, or are there other auditors' data that will go into this about other local authorities? In other words, are we going to get a meaningful snapshot of local authorities in England and Wales by tier? And what's the scope for benchmarking, league tables, or some kind of at-a-glance dashboard or whatever?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of on the future of local audit, I think this is building upon, to a certain extent, the MHCLG has undertaken a review. We've got the Redmond review coming around audit and proposals, and the Kingman review, actually, when it looked at the sector, did actually suggest, I suppose, in a way of almost going back to the Audit Commission. But I think the government has rejected that, as it does, so I don't think we'll be going back to that. But I think the idea behind that is it was looking at the FRC, the Financial Reporting Council's role in overseeing the audit sector as a whole. And I think, there were notable failures with KPMG and Carillion and things like that. So I think that report was trying to say, well, how do you re-establish trust and faith in the audit process, if you know what I mean? So I think that is one of the ones that you could do another arm's length page. I agree with you. I don't see that happening, but it's an option, and I think the government will be considering that. And it may well be, it's interesting, the NEO remit could be extended as well. But if it wishes to, it's interesting. I think when I did work for the Audit Commission, I think the NEO, because it has government departments, if you know what I mean. So I don't know which way the government will go. I think the idea is also, I think part of this is maybe because through where we've gone to at the moment, the focus has been on the financial statements, and I think it's picking up what we've heard already, that maybe public sector audit needs to go back and looking more at value for money and arrangements and elements like that, as well as get the balance back, I think. And I think that might be where we would end up. And I think A lot of us in the area would not disagree with that. I think that's why we entered the profession in the first place, was not just to audit the accounts. I mean, that's an important part of governance and a good part of assurance. But a lot of that will actually, I think certainly colleagues would be to look at that and give those independent views and, you know, in that sense, help the sector how best we could. So I think we will see what that outcome. There are a number of reviews going on now in relation to that, and I think we have to wait to see the outcome of that before making a judgment. A return to sustainable growth index, it does draw upon, I think, like SIP for statistics and things like that, so it draws across all council information. There's not, we wouldn't go to other firms, but we would look across the sector. So it wouldn't just be our client base per se, it would draw...
Right, that was what I was keen
Yeah,
to...
so, and in terms of that, and yes, I think you can cut it in various ways, in terms of the way that you would look at it. Now,
do you do that for us? Will you do that for us as part of your service?
it's not a free service. I think it's quite about it. So, but we have conversations. I mean, we might be able to do some sort of information, but the actual index itself, and also we need to be slightly careful, I suppose, in the way because it can sort of lead to potential advisory work, which we can't do for you under the ethical standards. But I can look into the cost of providing a snapshot and elements like that. I mean, I know we are doing some benchmarking for NHS clients. I don't think we've gone down that way with local government yet, but I can investigate a bit further about what we can. But the idea behind it is, yes, it is an index that you could either sign up to. I mean, there's a couple of tools that do that, which is CFO Insights and which again draws upon, which is a subscription service, but we draw information together and then you can interrogate it, and some councils have bought that in terms of that because it does helps them to make comparisons between themselves and other local government bodies. Can be used to help identify value for money and elements like that, but again it is a subscription service, but I can provide more details of that to you.
Thank you. Any further any other questions anyone may want to ask? So therefore, are we happy to note the external auditors report? Agreed. Very much. And thank you,
Yes, I should say that David will be back with you this year as well to see you through the main process, and Will Guest is the in-charge auditor, I think you've met before, so again you'll have a stable audit team going through, and yeah, we'll be having conversations around
Yep.
so.
Okay, thank you. You're quite welcome to stay if you wish to.
Happy to stay because, as I say, we do. Well, I'm not a direct respondent on audit, but I do note their reports and what the impact it might have on the control environment.
Thank you. So we move on to the summary of internal audit findings, which is on page 28.
I think my cover report starts on 24.
Sorry.
Page 24.
Oh, yeah, sorry, so 27, yeah, 24.
No, it shows, this report shows progress against the internal audit plan for 2019-20, which was approved by this committee in March of 2019. Appendix A to my report shows the work that's being done against the approved plan, and Appendix B shows the key findings resulting from the work that we've completed. I just want to point out though that the findings are a snapshot of the position at the time that we did the audit. So we do agree an action plan and we do agree improvements that will be implemented. So things may have changed since we actually did the audit. But at the last meeting, committee meeting that I was at, we agreed that where we've given a limited assurance or no assurance, that the team will do a more detailed follow-up review sooner rather than later. So where we have got limited or no assurance, in Appendix B, my team will be doing a follow-up so I can bring you an update on those at the next meeting, which is in March of this year. I've also included in section 5 of my report the work that the counter fraud officer has been doing. He works very closely with the housing team and the revenues and benefits team. He's introduced a much more proactive approach to the investigation process, so he has been very successful. And so far in this financial year at MBBC, because it was a shared service with North Warwickshire Borough Council, he's identified cashable savings to the public purse of approximately £130,000 and notional savings of nearly 400,000. Those notional savings are based on the ones that the Cabinet Office use when they're assessing the successfulness of the National Fraud Initiative. So, for example, if we have a successful fraud case with housing benefit claim, the assumption is that that claim would have continued for 21 weeks had it not been for the intervention of the investigation. So that's how we calculate the notional savings. And I have to say that so far this financial year, they've recovered 7 housing properties through tenancy fraud, either because the properties have been abandoned or they've been sublet. So those properties have been able to be let to other people on the housing list. So I think that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Connell, please.
Thank you very much. Firstly, congratulations on the account of fraud. We need a system where people are looked after, we have all these benefits that people need, but we do need to make sure that people aren't abusing the system. And a particular couple of points on that, it's not clear how much of that cashable saving is actually saving that effectively benefits the Nuneaton and Bedworth Council, or how much it benefits other parts of the public purse. So it'd be useful to know how much of our account of fraud actually saves the council itself money. And particularly keen that we've got the single person discount on there as well, because it's obviously one of the easiest frauds is actually to always say there's only one person living here. And I would question or wonder if a house is empty, quite often they say someone's living there to get a single person discount, because you actually pay more council tax on a house with one person, no people in than 2. So I hope that's being checked as well. In terms of the things in your Appendix B, independent living service, I noticed there was emergency fire wardens he's brought in very suddenly, and I don't know if that's related to the health and safety things the audit found, and if so, I don't know whether that's whether or how long that's going to be rectified, because obviously it's quite a serious matter, people who haven't got proper evacuation procedures from the independent living service, because some of these people are actually very poorly mobile. In terms of some of the other stuff, on water bodies, I'm quite interested that Coronation Walk is in there, because that's an area that's got changed brook runs along it. We should actually be dry most of the time, or a trickle of water. And one of the issues we have with it is it's actually not being maintained by the Environment Agency. So not only is the safety issues, there's actually the making sure that it's not full of water when it could actually be empty if it was actually free flowing. I've got a couple of other things. I've made some subject access requests, which are now 4 months since I've made them. So I don't know if that's in your data to audit anywhere in terms of complying with those issues. And finally, something that's not in here is the £6,000 lease overrun on the Civic car. I don't know where that got authorised or why that happened, but I don't know if that's an area that should be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I just want to respond to the 2 particular areas that you picked up, which is the water bodies and the health and safety issues of the independent living service. They've both got limited assurance, so I will be bringing a further report on those with an update and progress in those 2 areas.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Connell, please.
Thank you. My main concern is really that the ones where there are issues being picked up, a lot of it is to do with safety. There is in the independent living service, you know, it was on the health and safety arrangements that there were problems. On the asbestos management, there were a couple of issues raised relating to not using the designated hub telephone line. I don't know what that is. And the availability of face-fit masks at the work site. Now, working with asbestos is a really, you know, potentially dangerous thing. So, you know, I'm a bit concerned that that was actually up to, you know, satisfactory, because in my books, anything that, you know, these masks aren't available at the work site and things, that is a serious long-term health risk to the worker involved. Also on the water bodies, it's a real concern because it says the authority would therefore be unable to evidence that all reasonable actions have been taken to avert a catastrophic outcome, which we know what that means, and that would probably involve a huge claim against the council and things. So my concern is really that I know everyone is really pushed, there's really not enough staff to go round to do everything that needs doing, but when they're, with the limited staffing that we've got, safety needs to be the top of the agenda and things, so that all these things, the water bodies work is done. And directors need to be taking, serious responsibility for all the departments, under their control things. On the environmental health licences, it says a Google and Facebook search established that they identified at least 20 operators who were unlicensed or unregistered. What is being done to, there's always going to be people working under the radar, I understand that and things, but shouldn't there be press releases going out from the council to inform people of the need to check that where they're going is licensed, is registered and things, and how people check, how people report things, because it's all very well, it being done, and the bits that were done by the council are obviously okay, but there are a lot which aren't registered and therefore aren't going to be being checked. So it's how a lot of these things that are brought up from the internal audit is actually put into action and things actually done differently so that these things aren't occurring. I don't know sort of how that is done.
Thank you, Mrs. Underwood. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I agree that health and safety is very important, and this report reports our findings, but we do agree an action plan to make improvements where we do identify issues, and from the results of the follow-up audit you'll see that in the majority of cases the agreed actions are implemented, so people do take our findings quite seriously and we do respond to them.
Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. Anyone else wish to speak? Just to remind people that the people that we have here are the people who are doing the assessments, and as Linda has already explained, some of these assessments were done and actions may have been taken in between times. So anyone else wishes to speak, please, Carl.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to raise a point about the independent living service getting limited assurance, because I know when I drove past one of the housing complexes in my ward one evening, I sort of realised there was a security guard standing there, and I didn't quite know why it was, and then I found out through the Nuneaton news that there were health and safety issues. So I was going to ask about if the housing department has some sort of plan to rectify these issues, because I suspect the cost must be quite phenomenal on the HRA budget. But you probably don't know the answer, but I'll go to housing with that. My other questions are with regards to page 26, value for money review, civic hall review in progress. Could I ask when that review actually started? Because
it only started in probably beginning of December, end of November,
Okay.
Beginning of December. It's fairly recent, it's still ongoing.
okay, could I ask who requested that review? Was it just from yourself, or was it there was?
We were commissioned by Simone Hines
Okay,
to complete that review.
right. Okay, so it's the internal audit who's completing that, not an external auditor. Like.
Yeah, it is internal audit.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware at the moment, there's no external audit.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Councillor Cromer, did I?
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Just in the order that it's in the report for your reads, Linda. Good that there's at least a couple of significant assurances in here. There are, and first of all, let me give my usual annual shout out for my institute, the Chartered Institute of Credit Managers. It's great to see in the creditors that we are, kind of well on top of that. Can I ask, do we have any idea of what percentage of our invoices are paid to terms or within terms?
I think the last report that was done, we end up paying 90,
It's in the 90s.
mid-90s that are paid within the terms.
Well, that's to be
It's very
commended.
high,
Yes.
it's very high.
That's to be commended, and thank you very much for confirming that. The housing repairs, the issues you highlighted there are the perennial one with any organisation that people can order stock and it's not attributable to a job, and that's the kind of thing though we're so long in the tooth in this council, we really need to be on the case there. And can I ask, are you got any kind of assurances from line management that they're going to sort that out, because we can't have people ordering stuff with
We
no
will
job.
have agreed something within the action plan.
Right.
And although that we gave satisfactory assurance overall, because we look at the whole picture of the work that we've done and what our findings are, but we still do follow-up reviews.
Oh,
So you will receive a further report on those, probably not at the next meeting, but probably, sort of next year.
Okay. The other two things I wanted to mention are exactly as last year, the data quality thing. If, the usual, garbage in, garbage out, if we haven't got good data going in, how on earth can we track it accurately and all the rest of it coming out? The fact that that's still limited assurance, and that it's such a movable feast as well. It's just as things, some of it's, in terms of the error rate on a couple of the areas where it went down from 60%, wow, and that's a heck of an error rate, and 46% down to 25. 25 still seems bad, but it's clearly a big improvement and going the right way. But then conversely, some other stuff that was better before is now, falling down on the indicators. So that's a real worry, and that's something, Chair, that we might even want to ask for a bit of work to be done on, or to go to council, or whatever report to go to the full council or cabinet at least, just so that we can understand what's happening there, because clearly we've got to have accurate data to run this organisation effectively. And the final thing is, as I raised last summer, given that there are individuals that could be held liable for corporate manslaughter in any large organisation these days, the water bodies issue that I raised last year again is a concern. I'm glad you've done something on there, but it is only limited assurance. When we be going back and actually bottoming that finally?
Because that's a limited one, we will bring a report back to the March meeting on that one.
Right, so by mid-March, you've definitely
Yes,
revisited
at the
this.
next meeting of the
Okay,
18th
before
of
people are
March.
likely to start stripping off and getting in the water. I think it's still a bit chilly for people to be. Yeah, that would be timely. Thank you very much, Chair.
If I can just say with the data quality, it is concerning that we're constantly, but what we're trying to encourage managers to do is to look at what performance indicators we're actually publishing. Because if we're publishing them on our website, they've got to be right. But some of them they may just want to use internally as a management tool, and then it's just an assessment. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100% accurate. So we're trying to encourage them to look at what needs to be.
Are you talking
What
about
we want
it being more representative of the trend? So the
Yes,
actual numbers,
yes,
not
it
that
is.
important, it's where's the trend
It's just
going.
a management tool and
Okay.
a trend, and which ones we can actually take off the TEN system and take off our website if
Okay.
there are any. But that's what we're trying to. So if we're actually publishing fewer indicators, they've actually got more time to get it right.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to pick up on the back of something Councillor Evans here mentioned about the Civic Hall review. Obviously, it's something that's been requested in the past and it's been denied, so I'm quite interested to know that it's now going on. Will members be allowed to see the terms of reference of this, the review, and do we have any idea when it's likely to report?
It's being treated as an urgent
Right.
one, so we are, putting resources into it to get it done as soon as we can. We don't normally let terms of reference of each audit, but obviously you will see the findings. We will bring a report to this committee on the findings. It will be included in my reports to you.
I think given that it's been requested so many times by in the chamber, it would be good to see the whole thing. I also think it would probably be beneficial for the whole council to be seen to be transparent in this. It's not something that couldn't be FOI'd anyway, probably, so it would just be useful to see the whole commissioning, here's the terms of reference, go and do this piece of work as outlined here, and then what the final report is. I mean, we don't think we need to see drafts.
Councillor Brown who was
Sorry.
speaking, and you didn't indicate, because I've
Sorry.
already got Councillor Walmsley as well. So Councillor Walmsley, and I have you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I thought you'd finished. If you haven't, fine.
The only thing I was going to ask, when you said it was an urgent report, is do we have a projected date when we can likely expect to receive it?
I couldn't, at the top of my head,
3 months, 6 months?
within 3 months.
Oh, fine.
Within 3 months.
That's
It's
fine.
It's in this year's audit plan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so 3 months. But as for the terms of reference, Simone has commissioned us to complete this review, so I will speak to her about the level of information that we do report.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Walmsley.
Thank you, Chair. I just actually wanted to, it was actually something that you said that I wanted to pick up on, and it's actually in relation to Councillor Troman's, I think, on data quality. And there was a point you made, Linda, about publishing fewer indicators. That, to me, purely because the numbers don't look good, I have to say that would be a concern to me, because I think that we do need to look at publishing as much data as we can. We need to be open and transparent with the public. And just to say sort of, well, we want to look at the figures here, they're not necessarily accurate, so why don't we look at not publishing them, to me would potentially lead questions of, well, should we not be getting something right rather than just removing it from public record because we're not necessarily because it's wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I haven't got the full list of indicators here, but if you were to see the full list of indicators that we do publish, you would question whether the public are actually interested in some of them and whether they are just for internal management use only. And I'm not saying that we should reduce them. What I'm saying is we're encouraging managers to look at what they think we should be informing the public on what they see as just being an internal management tool.
So what would be the approval process then within internal approval for who ultimately would decide whether or not something continues or does not continue?
Management team.
So we go to SMT?
Directors, yeah.
Okay, that's good. The other just very short question was, obviously we've got varying elements in here from significant assurance, which is good to note, to satisfactory to limited to I think 2 no's in here as well. What are we actually looking to do? And I understand that priority has always got to be given to those that are limited and no assurance. But what are we doing? And I know you said the reports on limited and no assurance to try and get those up further. But what actually are we looking to do to raise the assurance of everything we do as a council? Should we not be striving for significant? And is there any work being conducted actually to try and move from satisfactory to significant, to try and achieve the ultimate standard?
That is what the action plan, the agreed action plan, at the end of each audit strives to do. And then we do a follow-up review to make sure that they are introducing and implementing the changes. And we do give a revised opinion at the end of that follow-up review. So obviously the ideal is that we give significant on everything. It doesn't always happen, as you'll see, because at the end of where I've got the details of follow-ups, you'll see where we have upgraded it from limited to satisfactory, where it's remained. For example, on page 32, the heart follow-up review, overall Nuneaton was revised to significant because they'd responded to everything. So if there are things that are still in progress, then we're happy that they are progressing it, but we wouldn't give significant, we'd probably just give satisfactory. But we do strive to give significant on everything. But, it is the follow-up reviews where we get the assurance.
The follow-up reviews, am I correct in you said earlier that those are done on limited and no assurance areas, or are they done across all
areas?
areas?
We do those sooner rather than later because obviously there are significant issues there that need to be addressed. but we do a follow-up review on every audit that we
You are,
complete.
excellent. Thank you, Chair.
Right. I didn't have any further speakers, so I'll move to the, pardon?
With your permission, Chair, I'd like to move an amendment or a motion to just to say that the terms of reference and the report that it produces for the value for money review of the Civic Hall should be brought to the March meeting. If I could move that, if there's a seconder.
I'll second that.
So, is that an amendment? Because I was about to move.
Well, we can tack it on to.
Well, I was about to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to move something as well as an addition to the recommendation, which was that, as written, but, and it doesn't cover your point, but it covers other points that have been made, and that where we may have concerns about limited assurance or no assurance, that live managers are asked to either provide a report or attend these meetings to inform members what actions are being taken.
I think that'd be an excellent 2.3, Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all right with that? Philip, you got 2.2 is mine, and then James's. Great.
So you have 2.2, 2.2.
So 2.2 is the terms of reference and report we brought back to the March meeting.
Yeah.
And 2.3 is the...
Is the one I've just, which I got written for you too. So,
Happy to second, Councillor Tandy, your proposed
thank
one.
you, yeah.
You can absorb that into your...
Absorb into that one of your...
Well, I'm trying to put them all as one
Yeah.
recommendation rather than
Yeah.
having divided votes. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, as we did last year, I think it's important that we have a vote of thanks to the counter fraud officer, like we did last year, based on how much money he's saved us in the last financial year. So I'd like to propose a vote of thanks to the counter fraud officer.
2.4.
Second that.
That's part of the recommendation,
of course.
2.4. So, there is a proposer and a seconder for all parts of that, but I think I need to take it as a whole. So I will propose that as a whole. Is there a seconder for the whole of 2.4? Thank you, Councillor Evans. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Right, that concludes our business for today. Could I say a huge thank you to Grant and Javed, and also to Linda and Craig for the work that they do on this. And we all appreciate that the work on audit is not an easy one to do, but I think we have every faith in our officers to continue to do the excellent job that they have been doing for some time. Thank you all for attending, and safe journey home.
No, Wendy.